Good morning, everyone. I hope you have had a wonderful weekend. Again, I hope that you were able to spend some time with your family, and I hope you had a wonderful Sunday as well. For this week, for Motivational Monday, I want to tell you the story, one of my favorite Bible stories. It is the story of David and Goliath, and once I finish reading it, I will tell you why it's my favorite. So the story goes, David was the youngest of Jesse's 12 sons. One day, the nation of Israel was called to fight the Philistine army that had gathered for war. While David's brothers went to fight, young David stayed back to stay with the sheep and the goats. The two armies gathered to stand on opposite sides of a deep valley. A great Philistine giant named Goliath, that stood over 9 feet tall, came to the front of the Philistine battle line each day for 40 days and mocked the Israelites and their God. Goliath called to them to fight, but King Saul and the Israelites were scared and did nothing. David was sent by his dad Jesse to visit the front lines and bring back battle news from his brothers. David heard Goliath mocking Israel and their God. David was brave, and he volunteered to fight Goliath. He persuaded King Saul to let him go fight and decided to not wear any of King Saul's armor. David gathered his sling and gathered 5 smooth stones. Goliath laughed at David, but David responded that even though Goliath had a sword and spear, he came in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel. David put a rock in his sling and swung one of the rocks right at Goliath's head. The rock sank into the giant's forehead and he fell. David then picked up Goliath's sword and used it to kill Goliath. The Philistines turned and ran when they saw their giant hero killed. Israel had won the battle because of a boy who had faith and trust in God. So the reason that this is one of my favorites is because it tells a story that it doesn't matter how big you are. David was the smallest of all of his brothers. He was the youngest of all of his brothers. But God did not select any of David's big brothers, any of them who were strong, who were able to fight. He asked and called David. David, who was the smallest, who was the shepherd, who spent all of his time taking care of the sheep. So this story tells us that God does not always call the people who look like they could fight a battle. He calls those who believe in him, who trust in him, who have faith in him. Those are the ones that he calls to fight. So I encourage you as you go throughout this week, as we continue on with school, with work, and whatever you have going on these next couple of days and the rest of this week, I hope and pray that you remember that it does not matter how big or strong you are. If God calls you to do something, he will enable you to do it, and he will give you the power and the strength that you need to fight. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. See you guys.